On February 27, 2011, a murder took place in Hyannis, a village that is located on the southern coast of Cape Cod, Massachusetts. 31-year-old Todd Lampley was shot dead through the window of his room. Some shocking evidence that was found at the crime scene connected some fictional stories to the murder. But despite this confusing evidence, it took 12 years to reveal the truth behind Todd's murder. Nestled on the southern coast of Cape Cod, Massachusetts is Hyannis, a picturesque city. It is a charming gem that sparkles with history, natural beauty, and endless activities. The village is surrounded by the serene waters of the Nantucket Sound, which provides stunning views of the sunset and plenty of opportunities for water sports enthusiasts. The quaint main street of Hyannis is dotted with colorful boutiques, art galleries, and restaurants that offer mouth-watering local seafood. For history buffs, the John F. Kennedy Hyannis Museum showcases the life and times of the 35th President of the United States, who loved spending summers in Hyannis. In addition to its cultural offerings, Hyannis boasts pristine beaches that offer a relaxing respite from the hustle and bustle of everyday life. This is where our case begins today. The night was quiet and peaceful on February 27, 2011, with a gentle breeze blowing through the streets of Hyannis, Massachusetts. But little did anyone know that a heinous crime was about to shatter the tranquility of the neighborhood. Todd Lampley, a young father and a beloved member of the community, was about to meet his untimely demise. As the night wore on, a concerned neighbor went to check on Todd. But as he approached Todd's house, he noticed something was off. The door was locked from the inside. The neighbor's suspicions were raised, and he quickly contacted the authorities. When they arrived, what they found was a scene of horror. Todd Lampley, only 31 years old, lay lifeless in his bedroom with a gunshot wound that had come through his window. The whole of Hyannis was in shock. How could such a thing happen in their peaceful community? The investigation that followed would uncover secrets, lies, and unexpected twists that would leave everyone reeling. The investigators arrived at the address provided by Todd's neighbor, their hearts racing with anticipation and fear. They could only imagine the worst-case scenario, but nothing could have prepared them for what they saw. Todd's lifeless body lay on the floor, and blood was splattered all over the room. It was a gruesome sight. As they examined the crime scene, the investigators' shock turned into curiosity as they began to uncover the evidence. 3 shell casings and a black cell phone were found at the crime scene. It was obvious that Todd was mercilessly gunned down from the outside of his window. The investigators were left puzzled and with hundreds of questions racing through their minds. They combed the area around Todd's house, determined to uncover any clues that could lead them to the killer. No stone was left unturned, no lead left unexplored. The investigators knew that the key to solving the case lay in the details. So they went door to door, interviewing every resident in the area, looking for anyone who had heard or seen anything out of the ordinary on the night of the murders. They listened intently as people shared their stories, piecing together a timeline of events that would help them solve the case. The murder of Todd Lampley took a bizarre turn when investigators discovered an unlikely object at the crime scene. It was a sweet potato, which appeared to have been used as a silencer, muffling the sound of the gunshots. It was as if the perpetrator was taking inspiration from a hit HBO series, The Wire. In the gritty urban landscape of The Wire, a tragic scene unfolds in Season 1 as a woman is ruthlessly gunned down in her own home. The shooter, lurking outside her window in the darkness, taps on the glass to lure her closer before unleashing a fatal shot. This chilling scene echoes the real-life murder of Todd Lampley, who was also shot through his bedroom window on a fateful night in Hyannis, Massachusetts. But that's not the only way the HBO show influenced the murder. Apparently, in season 4 of the same show, one of the fictional police investigators solves a murder in which the shooter used a potato as a makeshift silencer when fatally shooting his victim. The similarities between this tragedy and the world of The Wire are eerie and haunting, a testament to the show's unflinching portrayal of life on the streets where a similar trick was used to mask a gunshot. The potato was carefully carved to create a hole in the center and placed over the barrel of a gun, muffling the sound of the shots that killed Lampley. To add to the intrigue, the cell phone found at the scene of the shooting was registered under the name of one of the show's characters, Marlo Stanfield. The connection between the show and the crime scene was puzzling to say the least. Investigators sent the sweet potato for testing, discovered DNA evidence on it as a crucial clue that could lead them to the killer. However, it would be years before investigators could connect someone with this DNA. But even then, investigators had another trail to follow. A handgun, believed to be the murder weapon, was later found to have been tossed in a nearby lake. It was later fished out by civilians and was then retrieved by the police. Luckily, detectives had another lead in their investigation at this point. DeVaris Hampton, a man with a troubled past and a prolonged criminal record, was wearing a GPS monitoring bracelet around the killing as part of his probation in an unrelated case. Location data on Hampton's GPS monitoring bracelet placed him at the exact location where the gun was thrown into the lake. Phone records revealed that Hampton had exchanged a flurry of calls and texts with a man who was present in Lampley's house at the time of the murder. But the biggest link was yet to be revealed. Detectives discovered that the suspect, DeVaris Hampton, had a previous connection with the victim, Todd Lampley. Hampton testified in court that Lampley was involved in the July 2007 murder of Jacques Sellers in the same neighborhood. Interestingly, Jacques was also murdered in the same manner, a gunshot through the window. It's as if Hampton was leaving a trail of breadcrumbs for investigators to follow. With every lead pointing to him, it was only a matter of time before justice was served. The web of lies and deception that Hampton had spun around himself was slowly unraveling. Yet he remained tight-lipped and refused to answer anything about the Todd Lampley case during questioning after getting arrested in an unrelated case just a few days after the shooting. It was a frustrating roadblock, but the investigators didn't give up. They were determined to get to the bottom of the case, no matter what it took. Years of painstaking work finally paid off when DNA evidence connected the murder to Hampton. In 2016, authorities obtained a DNA swab from Hampton without his knowledge by collecting some of his phlegm that he spit into a puddle. When the results came back, they were conclusive. The DNA on the sweet potato matched that of Hampton's spit. It was a breakthrough moment in the case. The puzzle was finally coming together. But despite this damning evidence, it still took 7 years to finally apprehend DeVaris Hampton. On February 24, 2023, now 40-year-old Hampton was taken into custody and charged with 1 count each of murder and assault and battery with a dangerous weapon for the fatal shooting of 31-year-old Todd Lampley. Authorities, however, declined to comment on what caused the delay. In a courtroom filled with tension and uncertainty, Hampton made his first appearance before a judge in Barnstable District Court on February 27, 2023, exactly 12 years after the fatal shooting. With a stern expression on his face, he firmly declared his innocence by pleading not guilty to the charges against him. Despite the gravity of the situation, Hampton remained composed and resolute, knowing that the legal battle ahead of him would be a long and arduous one. The courtroom fell silent as the judge set his next court date for April 5, 2023. The case of Todd Lampley's murder might have come to a conclusion and the suspect has been identified, but the investigation is far from finished. Assistant District Attorney Russell Enos has remained tight-lipped about the delay in the case, only stating that the evidence has been assessed. Meanwhile, Hampton's court-appointed attorney, Edward Fogarty, has promised a vigorous defense and expressed confidence in his client's innocence. For more than 20 years, the case of Army Private Amanda Gonzales, who was only 19 and pregnant when she was found strangled in her barracks on November 3, 2001, has remained unsolved. Despite efforts to find her killer, the trail had gone cold for many years. Who could potentially be responsible for the murder of an Army private? Was it someone from her barracks or an outsider? During the Cold War, Hanau, Germany was developed into a significant United States Army aviation center, referred to as Fliegerhorst Army Airfield. In 1952, various construction ventures were initiated to re-establish the airfield's military identity. These initiatives included the construction of barracks, hangars, administrative buildings, and other facilities necessary to support the military personnel and their aircraft. As a result, Hanau became an essential facility for the U.S. military during the Cold War. Amanda was born on December 8, 1981 in Hearne, Robertson County, Texas, to her parents, Gloria and Santos Gonzales. Unfortunately, their parents separated when she was still young. Yet, Amanda wasn't deprived of fatherly love in her life. Her mother, Gloria, met a man and got married to him. From 1986, when she was just 5 years old, she lived with her stepfather, Michael Bates. Amanda spent her formative years in Madisonville, Texas, excelled academically throughout high school, and harbored a passion for becoming a pediatric physical therapist. Private Gonzales possessed a desire to explore the world. Hence, when the chance to enlist in the Army and serve in Europe after she graduated Madisonville High School in 2000 came up, Amanda seized it without hesitation. "I'm in," Gloria recollected her daughter saying. In March 2001, Amanda was deployed to Germany. In the picturesque German town of Fliegerhorst, where the sounds of military drills and aircraft filled the air, Amanda Gonzales would spend the following months honing her skills as a cook in the U.S. Army. Away from her home in the Lone Star State of Texas, Amanda felt a sense of excitement and adventure, eager to take on new challenges and opportunities. In November of 2001, which was her first assignment in the Army, Amanda was assigned to Headquarters Supply Company of the 127th Aviation Support Battalion as a cook. Amanda was anxious and happy to tell her mother about her pregnancy, so she picked up the phone and decided to tell her immediately. With a trembling voice, she revealed to her beloved mom that she was expecting a child despite being only 19 years old and on her first assignment in the Army. Despite the shock and unexpected news, Amanda's mother, Gloria Bates, could sense the joy and anticipation in her daughter's voice as she shared her plans to name the child Alicia Marie. As Amanda navigated the challenges of being a young, pregnant soldier in a foreign land, she knew that the love and support of her family back home would be her guiding light. And so, with a heart full of hope and determination, Amanda embraced this new chapter in her life, ready to face whatever lay ahead with courage and resilience. As Miss Bates also mentioned, Private Gonzales made the most of her leisure time by exploring German castles and taking a road trip to Paris with her friend. However, she confided in her cousins that she was a victim of bullying by some female counterparts on the military base who were eager to engage in physical confrontations. Undeterred, Private Gonzales demonstrated remarkable courage and defended herself and others against these bullies. Ms. Bates said that they referred to her as Firecracker because she was always prepared to explode. She added that her daughter was self-reliant and took care of herself, so she believed that she put up a strong resistance. On November 3, 2001, Army Private Amanda Gonzales was just 19 years old and 4 months pregnant. When she did not report for work, which was highly unlike Amanda, soldiers broke down the door to her barracks and found her lifeless body. She had been strangled, and her death was considered a brutal and violent crime. Her death was classified as a homicide caused by suffocation. According to the FBI, she was 4 months pregnant. The investigation into her death likely involved interviews with her colleagues and friends, forensic analysis of the crime scene, and other methods of evidence gathering. However, it appears that none of these efforts were able to lead to a breakthrough in the case, and the trail of her killer went cold. Despite an investigation by military authorities and the civilian police, her killer was not identified, and the case remained unsolved for over 2 decades. This means that the person or persons responsible for her death have remained at large for longer than Amanda Gonzales lived, which is a tragic and sobering realization. The fact that this case remained unsolved for so long is a reminder of the devastating impact that violent crime can have on individuals, families, and communities. It also highlights the challenge that law enforcement agencies face when trying to solve crimes, particularly when evidence is scarce or leads are few and far between. For 20 long years, the family of the victim was left in a state of unrelenting despair and unimaginable agony. The perpetrator of the heinous crime, the culprit who took away the life of an innocent woman, remained free and unpunished, while the loved ones of the victim were left to pick up the shattered pieces of their lives. Despite the unbearable pain and anguish that she was forced to endure, Gloria refused to let the memory of her daughter fade away into obscurity. She valiantly fought to keep the investigation alive, tirelessly seeking justice for her child who was taken away from her far too soon. With unwavering determination, the mother wrote letters to members of Congress, begging them to take action and bring the perpetrator to justice. She even reached out to popular television shows like Dr. Phil and America's Most Wanted, hoping that the wider exposure would help to turn up new leads and bring the killer to justice. But despite all of her efforts, justice remained elusive. The years continued to tick by, and still no one was charged with the crime. It is difficult to imagine the pain and heartbreak that Gloria Bates and her family must have felt, knowing that the person responsible for their loved one's death was still out there, free to live their life without any consequences. The Army commemorated the 10th anniversary of Private Gonzales' death in 2011 by offering a $125,000 reward for information. Army investigators were hoping that the reward would encourage people to come forward with any relevant information that could help solve the case. CID spokesman Chris Gray stated that keeping the reward to $125,000 demonstrated their determination to solve the case and bring the responsible person or persons to justice. He further added that they were confident that someone out there had information regarding the untimely death of the soldier and her unborn child, and that they were not giving up. Gray strongly encouraged anyone with information to contact them immediately. Despite the offered reward, no progress was made in solving the case. It remains unsolved or cold. The FBI allegedly called Gloria 22 years after the murder to inform her that an arrest had finally been made. Unfortunately, the specifics of how police located and arrested the perpetrator have not been made public. Authorities detained 42-year-old former soldier Shannon L. Wilkerson on February 23, 2023 on suspicion of killing Gonzales, they announced. He was later discovered to have been a member of the armed forces during the time of Gonzales' demise. He was discharged from active duty in 2004, just 3 years after Amanda's death. The investigation was being assisted by the Department of the Army Criminal Investigation Division, though privacy regulations prohibit the divulgence of any soldier's discharge characterization. At the time of the murder, Shannon L. Wilkerson would have been 21 years old, and according to the Andalusia Star News, he hails from Andalusia, Alabama. As per the news outlet, the individual was operating a fitness center named Cardio Zone in the region back in 2015. Wilkerson was charged under the Military Extraterritorial Jurisdiction Act, which gave the U.S. federal courts jurisdiction over crimes committed by the United States by, among others, former members of the armed forces who were no longer subject to the Uniform Code of Military Justice. Wilkerson was charged with 1 count of first-degree murder, and if he was convicted, he faced a maximum penalty of life in prison. According to court documents, the defendant entered a plea of not guilty during a hearing held after his arrest on February 23, 2023. It has been reported that a trial date has been scheduled for March 27, 2023 in Pensacola, Florida. Ms. Bates, the mother of Amanda Gonzales, has been informed by investigators that DNA evidence is being examined in the case, although it is unclear whether DNA evidence has linked Mr. Wilkerson to the crime. She plans to attend Mr. Wilkinson's detention hearing in the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of Florida, which is scheduled to take place in March. As the investigation into the untimely demise of the victim continues, the diligent efforts of the Federal Bureau of Investigation remain steadfast. Despite their tireless work, the motive behind the gruesome killing remains shrouded in mystery, leaving the authorities unable to provide any conclusive details at this time. However, the seasoned professionals at the FBI refuse to relent and are leaving no stone unturned in their pursuit of justice for the victim and closure for their loved ones. The principle of innocent until proven guilty is a cornerstone of justice, and rightly so. However, for the family of a victim, it can be difficult to accept this principle when they feel that their loved one's perpetrator has yet to face justice. While it is important to respect the legal process, it is also understandable that the family yearns for closure and justice for their loss. Ultimately, we must strive for a balance between the principle of justice and compassion for those affected by crime. What are your thoughts on the suspect? Do you think he is guilty or innocent until proven guilty? Please share your thoughts in the comments section below.